Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a vampire deck profile. So I'm really excited to you guys because you guys have been talking about this one a lot recently down in the comments because of all the amazing new support this deck just got out of Battle of Chaos, giving us two really amazing new extra deck monsters and a crazy awesome main deck monster that helps out the deck a lot. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Vampire Ghost. This card is the new card that we got out of Battle of Chaos, and it is an absolutely crazy powerful card that has the ability that if this card is normal summoned, you can send one other vampire card from your hand or face from your field to the graveyard to add a level 4 or higher vampire monster from your deck to your hand. And if you do, you can send a level 2 or lower vampire monster from your deck to the graveyard. And then during your main phase, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard and pay 500 life points to immediately after the card resolves normal summon a vampire monster, which is a crazy good effect because it puts your cards in the exact positions that you need them to go into your plays. We then play 3 copies of Vampire Retainer. Vampire Retainer is a great card in that because it searches your spells and traps with the ability of if this card is special summoned, you can pay 500 life points to add a vampire spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And if this card is in the graveyard, you can send a vampire card from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. We then play 3 copies of Vampire Familiar, which has the exact same effect as Vampire Retainer, except it searches monsters instead of spells and traps, which is a great thing for this deck to be able to do to get the exact spells and traps or the exact monsters that you need so you can go into your plays. We then play a single copy of Vampire Shadow. Vampire Shadow has a really good effect, but you only need a single copy of this card, and its ability is if this card is normal summoned, you can special summon a dark vampire monster from your hand or deck, except another copy of itself. But if you do, only that monster can attack for the rest of the turn, and you can't XZ summon a monster using this card except for a Dark XZ monster. We then play a single copy of Vampire Fraulein, which is a great card for this deck, but you really only need a single copy because it's so searchable, with the ability that when a monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. Once per turn, or once per battle, if your zombie monster battles an opponent's monster during the damage calculation, quick effect, you can pay life points in multiples of 100 up to 3,000 to make your zombie monster gain attack and defense points equal to the amount that you paid for this card's effect, which is a great effect to give your monsters a little bit of a boost, especially with cards like Vampire Familiar and Vampire Retainer having very low attack points. This card is a great card to back them up. We then play a single copy of Scarlet Scourge. I used to play 2 copies of this card, but I bumped it down to 1 with all of the new cards that we've gotten, and it helps out a lot to just play a single copy of this card because it's super searchable. It has the ability that if this card is normal or special summoned, you can pay 1,000 life points to target any vampire monster in the graveyard except another copy of itself and special summon it, but its effects are negated and it can't attack, which is not the big of a deal that it just basically can't attack. And it also has the ability that once per turn at the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed any monsters by battle, you can special summon them from the graveyard to your field, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just immediately bring those cards back. We then play a single copy of Vampire Grace. Vampire Grace is a good card to be able to use to discard to the graveyard because she has the ability that when a level 5 or higher zombie monster is special summoned to your side of the field by the effect of a zombie type monster, while this card is in the graveyard, you can pay 2,000 life points to special summon this card back to your side of the field from the graveyard. Great effect to be able to get you an additional monster on your side of the field and just helps out a lot in the deck. We then play a single copy of Vampire Voivode. Voivode is a good one of because it's again kind of searchable in the deck. And it has the ability that if this card is normal summoned, you can target up to 2 monsters in your opponent's graveyard and special summon those monsters to your side of the field in face of defense position, but their effects are negated. And when a monster effect is activated while a monster's with the same name is in the graveyard, quick effect, you can negate the activation, which is a great effect because your opponent uses multiple of the same hand trap, you can just negate them with this card, which is pretty good. It also has the ability that if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's graveyard, you can tribute 2 monsters to be able to special summon this card back from the grave, which is a great effect just to be able to get this really powerful boss monster back. We then play a single copy of Doom King Ballardrot to get into the other zombie monsters we're playing on this deck to back up your vampire package. Doom King Ballardrot is a really good card because if you have a field spell on your side of the field, you can special summon this card back from the graveyard in defense position, and you can also use the effect of once per chain, when a zombie monster's effect is activated, you can activate one of the 2 effects, but you can only activate each effect once per turn and not in the same chain. You can negate that effect or banish a monster from the field or the graveyard, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just banish a card or negate the effect that your opponent activated, being a really good boss monster that's going to come back over and over again. We then play a single copy of Banshee as well. Banshee is pretty good as a 1-of because it helps you get into your copy of Zombie World super easy by just banishing this card. We then play a single copy of Glowbloom. Glowbloom is really good, especially with the Zombie World package with vampires, with everything from Vampire Shadow all the way down to Voivode being a level 5 or higher, just combos very well with Glowbloom, because if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to be able to add a level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to your hand. But if you control Zombie World, you can special summon the zombie instead, which is pretty good. 1 copy of Jacobolin. Jacobolin is really good because it's a free special summon by discarding a zombie monster from your hand, which is pretty good to give you that monster. We'll also have the ability that during your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can target a zombie monster in either player's graveyard, special summon that monster, but banish it when it leaves the field, and then banish this face-up card until the end phase, which helps you get this card off the field while also getting you another monster on the field. We then play a single copy of Mizuki because you can banish this card from the graveyard to be able to bring back a zombie, which is pretty good. We then play 3 copies of Unizombie, being one of the best zombies in the entire game because it has the ability to be able to discard a zombie from the hand to be able to increase this card's level by 1, which is pretty good, or send a zombie from the deck to the graveyard to increase this card's level by 1, which is really good, especially on a tuner monster. It's just a really, really good card. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom makes it so basically your opponent can't touch the deck, which is really good in this build. And then we play 2 copies of Ghost Bell as well. Ghost Bell is a really good card because it has the ability that basically stops your opponent from touching the graveyard, which is super, super helpful for this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is a great 1-of in here because it's basically going to send the exact zombie that you need into the graveyard when you need it. 1 copy of 1-for-1 to get your level 1s out of the deck onto your side of the field, while also getting your vampires into the graveyard so you can bring them back. 1 copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave just basically stops your opponent from hand trapping you, which is really nice. We play 2 copies of Vampire Desire. Vampire's Desire is a 2-of to me in this build. I used to play it at 1, and I recently bumped it back up to 2 because it does help out a lot with your copy of Vampire Ghost, because it has the ability that you can target a face-up monster that you control and send a vampire monster from your deck to the graveyard with the different level than that monster, and then make the targeted monster's level become the level of the monster that you sent, basically letting you level manipulate to the exact level you need to go in for an XZ play. It also has the ability that's basically Monster Reborn that has the ability to target a vampire monster in the graveyard to send a monster that you control to the graveyard, and if you do, you can special summon back the monster from the grave that was the vampire, which is pretty good just to be able to have 2 searchable Monster Reborns in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Vampire Domain, which is one of the best cards in the entire deck because of its ability that once per turn you can pay 500 life points, and then during the main phase this turn you can normal summon a vampire monster in addition to your normal summoner set, which is a pretty good ability anytime you're going to get an extra normal summon, and each time your vampire monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent you gain that amount of life points, which is pretty good. We then play 3 copies of Zombie World. Zombie World comes in very handy because it turns every monster on the field and in the graveyard into zombies, and neither player contributes summon except for zombies, being able to just slow down a lot of decks. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Vampire Awakening. Vampire Awakening is a good 1-of to me because it has the ability to special summon out any vampire monster from your deck but destroy it during the end phase of the next turn, of this turn, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just get you any vampire that you need, and it's a good 1-of in here because it's searchable. And then 2 copies of Vampire Domination. Vampire Domination is a great searchable counter trap in the deck that has the ability that when a spell trap or monster effect is activated, while you control a vampire monster, negate the activation if you destroy that card, and then if it was a monster card you gain life points equal to the original attack, which is a great effect to be able to give you that extra life point gain. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of the Zombie Vampire, our new boss monster. This card is absolutely insane with the ability, if you're going to XZ summon this card using an opponent's monster, you can treat that monster as a level 8, which is a pretty good effect to be able to use any monster that your opponent controls that if you control it, which is just a great ability. And neither player can target this card with effects of special summon monsters except monsters that were special summoned from the graveyard. And you can detach a material from this card to send the top 4 cards from your deck to the graveyard, and then if any of them are monsters, you can special summon back one of those monsters, which is a pretty good effect to be able to mill 4 cards off your deck and 4 cards off your opponent's deck. I really love this card's effect to be able to just mill all those cards to be able to get the exact card that you need off this card's effect. We then play a single copy of Vampire Sheridan. Vampire Sheridan is just a good one of in here because it's just a really good vampire card and it's super easy to make in this deck. We then play a single copy of Beatrice to get the exact card we need into the graveyard when we need it. One copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is a good card because it gives us a pop and a negate, which is really, really good. One copy of Cyframe Lord Omega because it can get cards out of your opponent's hand, which is always nice, and in any zombie deck, this card always is great. One copy of Formula Synchron to help you go into Baron de Fleur or Cyframe Lord Omega, and also you can use it with your Needle Fiber to be able to draw a card and then Synchro Summon during your opponent's turn, which is always helpful. One copy of Access Code Talker because it gives us additional pops. If you don't have Access Code Talker, you can change it out for one of the Mayakashi Link 4s, or you can change out Baron de Fleur for a copy of the Mayakashi Link 4 to go along with your Access Code Talker if you already have one. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff, one copy of Vampire Fascinator because this card is one of the new cards that we got out of Battle of Chaos. It's really good for the deck and it has the ability that if this card is link summon, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to your field in defense position, and also you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombies. You contribute a vampire monster and then target a monster in your opponent's controls and take control of that monster until the end phase, which is a great ability to just be able to take control of a monster to be able to go into your copy of the Zombie Vampire or Vampire Sheridan. Is just absolutely crazy good. We then play 2 copies of Vampire Sucker. This card is always a good 2 of in this deck because it's just so good with its abilities to basically be able to target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to your opponent's field. And then if a zombie monster is special summoned from the graveyard, you get to draw a card that can help out a lot to be able to get that extra draw out of this card. It's just such a good card for the deck. It also plays in very well with your high level zombie monsters that are vampires because it has the ability that if you attribute monsters for a tribute summon, then you contribute a zombie monster opponent controls even if you do not control that monster, which basically makes it so any of our high level vampire monsters can be tribute summoned using our opponent monster, which is pretty good. We then play a single copy of Avenged Savior because it's a good zombie link monster. We then play a single copy of Needle Fiber as well because Needle Fiber is just a good card in this deck to be able to get out your tuners from the deck and also go for your copy of Formula Synchron, Ivy Masquerade because we can make Nightmare Unicorn during our opponent's turn, and finally a Link Rebo just in case we need to use our copy of Vampire Familiar to get it off the side of the field to be able to go in for additional plays or any of our level 1s that we play. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play with. If you guys have never played Vampires, you definitely should because this deck is absolutely awesome. I love the way Vampire plays. I've been playing Vampires ever since that we had Vampire Lord release, so it's just such a fun deck. Like, it's just such a good deck, and I'm really excited to see they're still supporting this archetype. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell near so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.